Welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. On today's video, we are looking at the S204066 Homage Sports Watch by Baltany. Now, Baltany is a brand who I've always given lots of credit to, as they've been there on AliExpress doing their own thing, bringing us homages of classical vintage watches. Now, occasionally they do offer us some more current and popular watches which they homage, and this is what we're looking at today. Now, this is not a new release. They've previously offered this model with an enamel black dial and a stunning chocolate sunburst dial, which I didn't get to review. So this is a new dial release, and it's the next thing closest, with a tropical dial on offer as well as a standard black dial on offer. Now let's turn our attention to the specifications. So for a brand which has primarily focused on vintage tool-like field watches sub £150, the specs and finishing on offer here rival that of San Martin, and they're still under £200. So you have a steel case and bracelet along with a box style air coated sapphire crystal. You've got a screw down crown and a screw down case back, with an alleged 200 meters of water resistance on offer. Now, whereas most of these are usually rated at around 100 meters. They've also given us premium features like female end links on this 3-link bracelet with screw-in links and a milled fold-over clasp with twin pushers and 3 micro adjustments. Now, you get all of this for £173, which is considerably less than San Martin, but they've gone one above San Martin and they've used a Seiko NH38 movement for this dateless dial configuration. Just for that, I'll put this above San Martin, as they've never used a Seiko NH35 in their countless dateless designs. So those of you that don't know, the NH38 is an automatic movement which is exactly the same as a Seiko NH35. So it's got your 40 hours power reserve, a beat rate of 6 ticks a second, and the same reliability, but it does not have a date function. So I'm very happy Baltany has used the correct movement in this watch. I think this is also something which makes this piece just a little bit more desirable. Now, moving on to dimensions, this is a 36mm watch with a thickness of 12mm, and most of that is down to that box sapphire crystal, and you also get a super compact lug to lug of just 43mm and a 20mm lug width. Overall, the watch is around 130-ish grams on the bracelet, and you've got the all important taper on the bracelet from 20mm down to 16mm and back up to 19mm for the clasp. Now, I'm really glad they went for this style of clasp. I don't really like seeing oversized clasps on sports watches, and just because the spec, like an on-the-fly adjustable clasp, you don't need that on everything. It does really ruin the aesthetic and the balance of a slim or well-proportioned sports watch. The clasp is perfectly adequate, and with 3 micro adjustments, it gives you adequate function. Now, talking about function, the crown on this stands out a little. Usually this design has those small fiddly crowns with a very slim profile. While they look nicer, it is quite fiddly sorting the time and date. This one is a little thicker, but it's a healthy 6.5mm, and it doesn't look out of proportion. It allows you to really get hold of the crown, and it gives you really good functionality, and you've got very smooth buttery threads. So before I move on to the dial, I mentioned that they had previously released this watch, and that model had the same color dials. It had a black and brown, but they were offered with applied markers and enamel sunburst dial option, which looked stunning. Now, these dials are printed with a more vintage matte effect, and this one I have in particular is called the tropical dial, which is like a reddy brown dial with Fotina printed hour markers and hands. Now, Baltany has always had nice dials, not overly complicated, but simple and well made. Good clean printing, and I've never seen a poorly loomed dial from them. They always seem to use ample layers of loom to ensure the dial is functional. This is no different. The faux patina loom is applied well, and it's consistent on the dial and hands, and it's more than enough for this sports watch. Handset is also nicely polished, flat, and they've gone for those vintage Mercedes style hands, which are slightly thinner than the ones that you see on the subs. There's good overall length with that second hand touching the outer printed minute track. Now, onto the finishing. This is where this Baltany stands out. It does have finishing comparable to that of San Martin, and these are not just my words. A lot of people who purchased this model and the previous one fed back with the same observations. You've got premium finishing on the lugs of the case, very soft brushing and clean transition lines into the polished curved sides of the case. So like this low profile polished bezel, it's really well balanced, and it doesn't take up too much of the dial. The brushing is also very consistent and soft across all the bracelet with polished edges. Now, however, you do feel the edge on the links. They're not sharp, but due to the defined edge, it's not as smooth as I would like. Now, Baltany have also given us high-end finishing on the clasp, satin brushing with large polished bevels on the shell and polished pushers. We have a signed crown, which doesn't really make sense, to be honest. It's just the letter B, but in a stylized font, which isn't anywhere else on the watch. So it does look quite odd. And the case back is your standard sterile case back, but with circular soft brushing. Finally, on wrist, we know it's going to wear well. It's got compact dimensions, and coupled with female end links, it fits perfectly on my 6.5-inch wrist. The watch is really well balanced. It feels like a really solid sports watch, but that high-end finishing really makes this Baltany stand out. Overall, I just think they came out with this a little too late, as much of the hype on these Explorer homages had passed. If they'd done this when San Martin were making theirs and we had the Pagani designs making theirs, then we would have seen a direct battle, which I think Baltany would have won. And I'm also really drawn to this Sunburst brand dial. We don't see that many brand dials on watches as we did many years ago, but I think this should be the new thing, making the brand dials the new black. So that's it from me today, and this Baltany S204066. All this for £173 on a bracelet. Really nice watch for the money. Let me know your thoughts below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.